snow.com/celebrate-winter to book.
Friday this month, we're teaming up with the Ailes Apprentice program to celebrate Black History Month. And once again, I'm joined by Fox Report Weekend Zone, Harris Faulkner, to bring you the story of a woman who just wouldn't take no for an answer.
Should we tell everybody that we dance to that tune when it plays?
It does have a good beat to it,
It's got
right?
a good snap, right? Thanks for having me
Who are
back.
we going to meet?
Gail Harris. She grew up right across the river from us here in Midtown Manhattan on the toughest streets of Newark, New Jersey. But her parents taught her early on that if she could dream it, she could make it happen. So when she wanted to become an intelligence officer in the Navy, something that had never been done by a woman, much less by a woman of color, the Navy never knew what hit it.
Well, this is where I spent the first 14 years of my life. I lived in a neighborhood that was poor, but everybody had both parents and the father worked. Anything that you would think a child raised in the suburbs did, we did in the city of Newark, New Jersey. I had the greatest parents in the world, James and Lena Harris. My mother was my spiritual advisor, and that she made sure that my brother, sister, and I went to church every Sunday and said, I don't care what you end up believing as an adult, but you're going to go to Sunday school till you're 21 as long as you're leaving with me.
Gail's parents encouraged her to step out and take risks, never letting the color of her skin limit her possibilities.
I think the easiest way to think about it is my parents were my seconds. I'd jump into the ring of life, get knocked down, they'd drag me back, clean up the blood, whisper philosophy in my ear, and push me back into the game. And when I was a little girl, when it was raining, I'd sit on our back porch. And to me, these tenements were mountains. And I would sing from the sound of music, climb every mountain, and knowing these are my mountains that I had to overcome to go achieve my dream. And that's kind of how I looked at it.
Growing up, she loved to watch movies with her dad. When she was only 5, the Saturday night movie just happened to be Wing and a Prayer, starring the late Don Amici.
Play the act the deck during bombing practice.
It was about the aircraft carrier, the USS Enterprise. And during one climatic scene, the character actor Don Amici gave an intelligence briefing.
Our heavy ships are hopelessly outnumbered.
I didn't know that was what it was, but I turned to my father and I said, that's what I want to do when I grow up. And he said, this is America. You can be whatever you want to be. And I just believe that I was given a glimpse of my future. I didn't know it then, but it was such an inner knowing that that was what I was going to do.
After college, Gail would get her chance, but the Navy wasn't so accommodating at first. The only woman to graduate from her intelligence class, she needed to figure out a way to quickly win the room.
The class advisor, a Navy lieutenant, was going around asking the men in the class what type of squadron that they want to go to. So the guy said, oh, fighter bomber. He kept ignoring me. And so I just, hey, what about me? What about me? And he looked at me and he said, I don't believe you belong in the Navy, let alone an aviation squadron. And I always had a good sense of humor. So I said, you can say whatever you want, but everybody knows that black people are superior sexually. And the guys in the class were laughing so hard they nearly fell out of their chair, and that broke the ice.
And that sense of humor would save her time and time again. But it was her fierce intelligence that won her the respect from her peers.
Oftentimes, the people who had the biggest resistance to me before I showed up became my biggest supporters. And I tell you, when I'm sitting there giving an intelligence brief to people who are going to go in harm's way, they didn't care what color I was, or if I was attractive, or if I was fat, if my uniform didn't look right. They cared about what came out of my mouth.
Locked in a Cold War with Russia for most of her career, the information Gail deciphered often meant the difference between life and death, war and peace.
I think the military is a calling. And it is a calling, as corny as it sounds, that you want to protect the nation. And my attitude is I may not agree with what you say or your political views, but I will defend what my life, your right to say it.
When she retired after 28 years of service, Captain Gail Harris was the highest-ranking woman in the U.S. Navy.
To me, nothing is impossible. Your dream is waiting for you to come true. What I always say to people, that deep-seated thing that you have that you'd like to do, but you think is impossible, That's a glimpse of your future. I think what I would like for my legacy to be one team, one fight. In the workplace, one team, one fight. It doesn't matter if a coworker is purple. If they can do the job, they're on the team and they're your teammate and you give them that respect. When you look at me and you see a black woman, then you still got work to do. But if you look at me in this setting and just see a woman, then you're where you need to be. And I think we're getting there. I think we're getting there.
One team, one fight. I love that. A special thank you to the Intrepid Museum for letting us film some of the pictures that you saw of Captain Harris in that piece. We could all use some of her gumption, no doubt. So you can catch her blogging these days, she's told me, on the Foreign Policy Association website. And she has a book out. It's called A Woman's War, reaching out to young people looking for a career in intelligence. All right. Well, next Friday, I'll be right back here next to Gretchen on the curvy couch with the story of Colonel Guy Bluford, first African-American in space. He's always believed anything is possible and has shown the world he has the right stuff. It's part of the American history we all share.
You know what I love about these stories is that you see from the very beginning, early on in their lives, that they know what they want to do and how they're going to get there. And sometimes it's a rocky road, but they get there.
I loved, you know, just her glimpse of making the impossible happen and not listening to those outside voices that sometimes can put doubt in our minds.
Everyone can relate to that, no matter what.
Absolutely.
All right. We'll see you next week, Harris.
Thanks, Gretchen.
Well, the president says he doesn't have a spending problem, but take a look at this brand new Fox poll. The American people don't agree